Hey guys, Jack here. Continuing on the trend with Dark Toku, more or less, we're going to look at a Toku that's, well, more for adults than it is for kids. We're looking at the Garo franchise. Now, the Garo franchise was created by Keita Amamiya. I think that's the guy. But in any case, the guy worked on Super Sentai and Kamen Rider, so he's not that estranged to Toku. Now, like I mentioned before, this Toku is more for adults than kids, premiering on late night. So, if your kids aren't prepared, because there are a lot of horrific scenes and naked people, I would wait until they're a little older to actually start showing them this. But, let's go over the plot. So, in any case, the main antagonists of the shows are those of horrors. Horrors are the manifestations of the sins of the world, which, by using the 7 deadly sins here, I can sort of, well, I'll just use the 7 deadly sins. The 7 deadly sins, the actual sins, not the anime, which is pride, greed, lust, envy, gluttony, wrath, and sloth. And as long as humans keep repeating these sins, the horrors will never go away. Now, in the olden times, there were actually the Makai priests, whose job it is to banish the horrors back to their realm. And while they were able to banish some of them, they were losing badly. However, after the Order battled and defeated an enemy known as Gajari, yeah, there are a lot of beings that aren't really horror-related. I'm getting ahead of myself here. Gajari helped them by, I guess, using some horror parts and harvesting soul metal, which, best guess, is probably something that Horus drops. So you get a rare item, neato, to fashion Makai armors, which were all themed after wolves and were developed up and started the Night Order of the Makai. The Night Division of the Makai Order. The Knights were more capable of handling the priests. However, there is a downside to the armor. One can only wear a Makai armor for 99.9 seconds. That's not an estimate. In any series, they literally show you that it's 99.9 seconds. If one goes over the time limit, one transforms into a horror-like entity. Those being called Lost Soul Beasts, and it consumes one from within. However, in some very rare cases, if one is able to transform from their lost soul beast form back into their human form. I'm not sure if this counts for everyone, but in some cases, it really should. They're able to wear their armor past the 99.9 time limit, allowing access to the full control of their armor. However, if they cannot, hitting the emblem, which is located near the hips of the armor, allow the armor to be reset and the wearer to be freed. Now, these armors are usually contained with rifts, which are summoned through soul metal blades. Soul metals judge the weight of one's soul. If your soul cannot handle the soul metal, it will become as heavy as concrete. It will become as heavy as stone. However, if you have the right clarity, if your soul is deemed worthy, the blade becomes light as a feather. No. Currently, in the Garo franchise, while there are some armors that are designed to be female, one that I can currently think of, there are no female Makai Knights. While it is a sexist thing, the armors were made during a period where female warriors weren't commonplace. So again, it is a sexist thing, but it was because of the time period. So, and if a knight happens to fall in battle, it can take over a decade for one to take up the new armor. And there's a lot of training to go through, like being able to have the soul blade, learning to work with your fellow Makai knights and Makai priests. And that's just basically only 2 of the possibly tens of millions of things that go into becoming a Makai Knight. Now, Makai Knights also have special items known as Madogu, which are sentient pieces of jewelry, which can come in multiple forms, like a bracelet, a necklace, a ring, etc. Now, they don't... Now, the Madogu do have the ability to sense horrors or horror-like things nearby. And speaking of horrors, I need to go off the rails for a bit. Because like I mentioned, now there are 2 different types of horrors. First are Ingo horrors. Now, Ingo horrors are pretty much basically animals. And they usually pick the most disgusting people of society. The more despicable the human it fuses with is, the more powerful the horror becomes. But they can also form contracts with humans in exchange for giving them something the human. In exchange for the horror giving them something the human wants. Hang on. What the? Restore. Ooh, close one. Okay, any case. In exchange for giving something the human wants, the human helps the horror get its meal. Now, there are also, that horrors are usually seen in one series, Mado horrors. Mado horrors are from the series Yatiwasumono, or The One Who Shines in the Darkness. These horrors, unlike Ingo horrors, are transformed from ordinary people who use the seam of the horror entity, Sidam. When a seed is ejected into someone, not like that, like it's an actual physical seed that is usually stabbed into a person, the person transforms into a horror. And in contrast to Ingo horrors, the more prideful or righteous the human who transformed is, the more distinct and powerful the Ingo horror becomes. And, on a side note, one cannot just kill the master. Well, actually you can, and would make it a lot swifter. Because if the master is killed, the Ingo horrors die with them. However, if the Dom is released, he has the ability... Hang on, dang it. He has the ability to circumvent control. So, yeah. But in any case, there's also one more piece of Makai gear that all knights carry with them. The Mado lighter. Seriously? Stop! Hang on. Swear to God, this is getting out of hand. In any case, the Mado lighter contains a spiritual flame. That if it is shined in the eyes of those who have been possessed by a horror, Makai symbols will appear in the eyes of the possessed. However, during the whole Ingo horror thing, that was not the case, as they could not be tracked down with the Mado lighters. However, our heroes of the series were eventually able to finally build a Mado horror detector. Now, instead of being a flame, it's more of a spinner on a pull that creates a sound. Those who hear that, whoever the Mado horror is and hears that sound, their eyes will turn red, and red curved lines will appear down their eyes near their mouth. But I digress. Now, let's get into our main... Now, how do the armors really work? Back to it again. The armors are usually kept in special towers. And the armors are usually passed through one of two ways. Usually it's either family to family, usually fathers to sons, because, again, like I mentioned before, the armors were created in a time where female warriors were not the norm. But if one does not have any children, that does not mean the armor is lost forever. Another way to pass the armor down is for the current Makai Knight who has the armor to train a Makai apprentice. And then if that knight dies, the apprentice inherits the armor. But again, it can take over a decade for a new knight to take up the armor. So the knights have to be careful, because if the priests are killed, more priests can just take out their ranks. The knights have to be extremely careful. But in any case, let's get into the armor of the main universe. This being wielded by the members of the Saejima clan. First is Taiga Saejima, who is the title inheritor of Garo before taken up by his son, Koga Saejima, who after some shenanigans had to leave, later being taken up by his son, Raiga Saejima. Now, let's get into the armor. Now, this is the standard Garo armor. Now, each knight has a subheading for their armor, Garo being appropriately titled the Golden Knight. Now each member wields the Garo Ken, which is transformed from a long sword, which in its standard form is that of a long sword, but similar to armor, the sword transforms into that of a greatsword. Which translates to the famed wolf Sword. I don't know why I said Zord. But in any case, let's go over Koga's forms. Well, again, I forgot. Before we do that, we need to go over the Mado war horses. Now, a Mado war horse is usually it can only be unlocked one way: a Trial of Shadows. Once a knight slays 100 horrors, they are put under a test through a manifestation they are put through a trial by facing a manifestation of their armor. If that armor is defeated, the ability to summon the Mado warhorse, is unlocked. Koga's being Goten. Now, this allows Koga to upgrade the Garo Ken into the Garo Zamba Ken, which which is which is translated as the Garo horse-slaying sword, or more specifically, the fanged wolf horse-slaying sword, which is a large greatsword. Now it can also this greatsword can be upgraded again into the Garo Zombiekin, or the Great Fang horse-slaying sword. But let's get into Garo's forms with Koga first. This is winged Garo. Like the name suggests, it gives Koga the ability to fly. Now there is a drawback. After Koga, when the armor returns to the place it's held, the Tower for Rogue Spirit. The Tower for Rogue Spirits, the armor reverts to its previous state. But, like the name suggests, this gives the Garo armor the ability to fly. Next is the Master Garo armor, which again is a more permanent upgraded which is another version of the Garo armor, with its different linings and its cape. Now, the Master Garo armor is very powerful. Why is it so powerful? Because it has the ability to give the person wearing it the ability to tap into the power of all the previous bearers of the Garo title, making it an extremely powerful armor that is only used in the utmost of emergencies. Next is Phosphorus Garo, which premiered in the special after the regular series to try and wrap it up. Now, Garo, using a sacred item known as the Phosphorus Arrow, purifies himself of horror poison. And by throwing it into a gate, Garo is able to purify the surrounding area that is currently tainted by horror essence. Yes, seriously. Next is Garo Dragon Formation, which was used against the horror Karma, yes, seriously, in the movie Garo Red Requiem. I think I may be pronouncing that wrong. But in any case, similar to the Master Garo armor, Garo Dragon Formation taps into the power of every knight that Karma has killed over the years, lending all their power to Koga in order to stop her. It also gives Garo a golden dragon to fight alongside. Next is Blue Dragon Garo. Now, this form of Garo is the last form premiered in the movie that featured Koga's actor. And I forget what that movie is called. Dang it. But anyway, this is an upgrade both to Garo and Goten. Goten turning into a jet sword motorcycle. I'll repeat that. Jet sword motorcycle. And that's about that for that. Next, we'll get into the last one of the main series, which is known as Light Beast Awakening Garo. This form is the only upgraded form, to my knowledge, to be used by Raiga, who I mentioned is Koga's son. This is actually because, despite transforming into a lost soul beast, Raiga was able to keep his own soul intact. As a result, he gained this upgrade. Yeah. Okay, so next we'll move on to the Ryugaverse armor. Now, people have considered this an alternate universe, but again, for my last video on Kamen Rider Black and Black RX, I look at Dash Shinta. He goes into in-depth about Garo reviews, and he has a theory that, once again, I personally agree with. But in any case, let's... Anyway. But in any case, Ryuga was a bit headstrong. Yeah, and I'm not but he eventually melted out. And I'm not getting into any more than that. Now, his first form is that of the lost Shine Garo. Now, like the name suggests, this is Garo that has lost most of its golden armoring, transforming into a mostly black armor. But as the series that Ryuga debuted in went on, he was eventually able to fully restore the Garo armor to its golden form. And yeah, the one who shines in the darkness, the light that shines in the darkness is not beloved by fans. As well, Ryuga's mostly a dumbass in that show. And most of the armors and Inga horrors that I mentioned earlier, Mado horrors, are mostly CGI. However, and best guess is this was a testing to see if CGI armor worked. It did not. But they eventually realized their mistakes, and during Ryuga's second series, Goldstorm, they eventually brought the whole physical armor thing back. And before you ask, yes, CGI has been a part of Garo, but it's usually for the more extreme moves that a suit actor could not do because of freaking golden armor. And the light that shines in the darkness, it's very hard to get invested in the fights when they were all freaking CGI! But I digress. The next form is that of Garo Flight, which is a more permanent upgrade to Garo's armor. I don't really know what this does. And he doesn't really get to fly. But again, reading from the wiki here, it makes Garo less susceptible to damage. And this premiered in the Goldstorm Flight movie. So why was this upgrade needed? Well, Ryuga was actually, in the previous series, Ryuga ignored conduct of the Maikai Order. Instead of obeying them and being assigned to a district, Ryuga wandered around as a free agent. And also, the Heroic Tower, aside from being a graveyard where the previous Garo versus the Garo title are put to rest after they die, also serves as a purification area for the Garo armor. However, with Ryuga once again continuing despite Ryuga learning and growing in the one who shines in the darkness, he still wasn't assigned a district, instead a whole city to protect in the movie. As a result, they had to go to a high priestess, who took the Garo armor, who I originally thought she was going to be evil, but it turned out she was actually a good girl. She was actually a good guy, thank the Lord. And not only purified Garo, but reamped it. Meaning if Ryuga ever left the city, if he ever, fighting horse outside of it, Ryuga would not have to worry about the whole horror essence thing causing him pain after a battle. which I found a nice touch. But again, this one doesn't actually allow him to fly. Next is Yami Garo. Yami being translated to dark, so Garo Dark. Now this form, once again, while being temporary, can still be accessed by Ryuga, with Ryuga accepting both light and darkness inside of his soul and heart and stuff. He was able to access this form. And ironically, it gives him a cape that actually allows him to fly. Now, in this case, to my knowledge, Ryuga is one of two people who is unable to use Goten in the live-action Garo series. But first, we need to look at the current last live-action Garo one. This being wielded by Cian Kun, if I'm reading that correctly, who, among lots of other people, were tricked into entering the Makai world under promise of a VR game. Now, this version of Garo is more technologically upgraded. I'm not going to show the images, but there are more blue lines. Once again, this Garo is mostly in CGI. But however, this is both good and bad for me. Waiting for the last episode to actually use the freaking CGI was a nice touch. However, no one ever freaking armored up in this show. It got really annoying really fast for me. But in any case, let's go over the last bearers of the Garo armor, that being in the anime version. Which involved yes, there have been Garo anime, bite me. Which come from Garo Vanishing Lines, which come from Garo the Cave of Seal Flames, Garo Crimson Moon, and Garo Vanishing Lines. Ooh, hang on. Now, each one takes place in a different time period. Now, I have to agree with people who say that the anime isn't canon. Mainly because they changed Makai priests into Makai alchemists. You figure out how that works, because I sure haven't. But I'm not getting into that. Anyway, let's go over the first anime, which is Garo Carved Seal of Flames. The bearer for this Garo title is Leon Lewis. However, he temporarily lost the Garo title to his cousin, Alfonso Zen Valtini. I think I'm pronouncing that wrong. Apology to... I think this takes place in Europe or Italy. I don't know. Point is that Alfonso, while being Garo, is not really its true inheritor. Sure, his grandfather was the Garo before Leon but when he first took it, I thought it was being an ass. But he wasn't. Alfonso's true Makai form is that of the Knight of Defense, Gaia, who only took Garo from Leon because he thought he wasn't worthy of it. Mind you, that you could have helped your cousin through this instead And again, I blame Alfonso for not trying to help his cousin through this, because after his cousin found peace and finally moving on from Garo, Alfonso was stupid and got the woman he was falling in love with and her family killed. Yeah, people of the Garo anime just cannot catch a break. But in any case, let's go into Garo's forms for the series. First is Rage Garo, which is Leon's first form. As before actually mellowing out in sometime halfway through the series, Leon was angry, hence being known as Rage Garo. This being because he had to, I'm not sure what you call it. Let's call them scarf pieces, connecting two rings on the back. And we also learn the anime while the mouths can open. Yeah, it was still not fun. Now after Leon was able to mellow out, the armor became the exact same as those of the original live action Garo. Now in the season finale, in the finale of his anime, he actually became Double Extreme Fusion Garo. Ooh, that's a mouthful. By summoning both his armor and the armor of his father. His father together, the armors fused. How he got past the timeline is beyond me, but my personal theory is that by summoning and fusing both armors together, the time limit doubled. So, let's do some math here. Okay, so 99.9 seconds is the current, multiply that by 2. He gains 199.8 seconds. So, yeah, that's that. But anyway, this one will be passed on to Leon's half-brother. Next is Heavenly Sword Glitter Garo, which is promised by which in the movie, yes, all these animes have had movies, except for Vanishing Line. Still waiting on that one. Gives him golden glitter-like wings and a giant sword. Also, Alfonso's version just basically looks like the Garo Master Armor. Hold on, let me see if I can't find a better version of Glitter Garo. I cannot. Oh well. Let's move on to the next anime, Garo Crimson Moon, which takes place in feudal Japan. Who the wielder is that of Raiko. Now, Raiko is currently the only person to wield the Garo armor after the 99.9 second rule. Why is this? Because he originally wore the Garo armor as a lost soul beast, and he was saved by Abi no Seimei. For those of you who don't know, Abi no Seimei is a legend in Japanese folklore. I think I'm using that right. But in any case, this version was a girl, and in order to stop him from, killing himself, because apparently she was in love with him, oh my, she placed a seal on the armor. That, without her permission, Raiko could never transform. But eventually, he was able to break the seal himself, and evolve the armor represented the times. The original armor was that similar to the original Garo armor. And keeping with ancient Japanese, his Makai blade to summon the Garo Ken was that of a was a katana. However, once again, after transforming into a lost soul beast near the finale, he was able to retain his soul, becoming oh dang it. Which becomes Winged Garo, but to the formation! I do not regret saying it like that. But in any case, his second and upgraded form, similar to how Goldstorm Flight style to Garo Flight was the permanent upgrade for Ryuga in, well, Goldstorm. The upgraded version of the Garo armor for this one resembles that of an ancient Japanese warrior, like a samurai or shogun. I find it a nice touch. Now, let's wrap this up with the last bearer for the Garo anime. William Reginald, otherwise known as Sword. Now, Sword, despite his big muscles, is a very caring man. But despite him being using the title Garo, he does not wield the Garo Ken that often. But he keeps it much more hidden than his predecessors because it's a collapsible sword. Nice. But in any case, instead of having Goten, he has a motorcycle that is powered by Zaruba. And as a result, and he can actually summon the Garo Zanbaken through his motorcycle, which is awesome. Now, his armor doesn't have any temporary upgraded forms, which is probably again due to lack of a movie. But this is his Vanishing Line armor, which has been upgraded through modern technology, which in some cases actually glows. Oh, wait. He actually did get an upgrade. After Zaruba sacrificed him to protect him and another character named Sophie, Sword collected the pieces of his motorcycle and punched it through that summoning halo. Halo, which was the rib that the Garo summons for, which allows him to gain a more armored version of Garo. This Garo... Now, here's that glowing line portion of the Garo armor. And because this armor does not have a name, I shall give it a name. I dub the Motor Armor Garo! Yes, I went there. But that's pretty much it for the Garo franchise. Now, there are many other things to go over here. But if I did that, we'd be here all day. So I think I'll return to the Garo franchise later down the line. But what do you guys think? Do you really want me to talk more about the Garo franchise in the future? Let me know in the comments down below. Hit that like button and please subscribe to my channel. I don't update often, but when I do, hit that bell icon, you'll get all the latest updates. Well, that's all for now. This is Jack Keller saying, oh, I don't really have a saying. Oh well. See ya.